Hi everybody, it's Connie, the Compassionate Medium. How are you all doing? I got anybody with me? I see one person popping up. Give everybody a few minutes. Well, this is actually my second episode of Chatting with Joel and Guests. Just to fill you in if you're not familiar, Joel is my spirit guide, and he helps me facilitate all the people that I speak with that have already crossed over. So he's given me an opportunity to start speaking with some famous people, some celebrities, maybe politicians, high-profile murder cases, spiritual leaders, all kinds of people like that, and he's going to facilitate bringing them through for me. And this week he actually wanted me to take a poll and to see who we wanted to talk with. So the poll was between Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson, and actually Elvis Presley won. I think it was pretty close, 55 to 45%. So tonight we're going to be chatting with Elvis. Can anybody tell me hi so I can see if the scroll is working right? Hey, there's Lisa. I see Lisa. Good, I see the scrolls coming through now. So, what I do want you all to know, I'm doing this by myself tonight. I had a hard time kind of concentrating and getting into my meditative state that I do before I do all these. So I've actually come out to my vehicle so I could have a little bit of peace and some quiet and see some nature out around me to kind of help me connect a little bit better. So that's actually where I am tonight, and I don't have a helper, so I'm going to be having to watch for what you guys say, and if you put up any questions that you would like me to ask Elvis about. I just got 2 people right now, so I'm kind of hanging on to see if we can get any more people in. There goes my lights back on. This is kind of exciting for me tonight. I think anybody in my age group, we kind of listen to Elvis a little bit, if not from our perspective, from our parents' perspective. And I think it's going to be really interesting for me to hear what he might have to say. Hi, Heather. Good to see you. I want to ask him a bunch of different things, and I want you guys to chime in and tell me if there's any questions that you would like for me to ask him. I never in my life dreamed that I would actually have Elvis Presley sitting over here beside of me, but Joel has actually brought him through, and he's here. And I want to thank him for being here. And he does have that southern drawl voice that we've all heard him speaking of. And he actually looks really, really good, you guys. He's dressed very informally. He's got a pair of jeans on and a white buttoned-up shirt. He's got it untucked. He doesn't have it all tucked in. He is very, very handsome man. And I'm excited to have him with me tonight. My mother's favorite song when my dad was deployed overseas in the Army was "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" And as I'm sitting here, I'm getting really emotional because he is actually sitting here with me, and I never in my life dreamed that I would be doing something like this, but so I'm actually just going to start talking to him. I'm going to be watching back and forth to see if you guys have any questions that you want to, he's saying, "Thank you very much, ma'am." Please don't call me ma'am. I'm old, but I'm not that old. He's saying that he's excited to be here too, that he has a lot of messages that he would like to give to the people listening. He's saying that my spirit guide Joel has explained to him why we're doing this, and he's excited to kind of give you his perspective of things. So I just want to start out, I guess, Elvis, I don't know where to start. What would you like to talk about? He said, anything y'all want to hear, ma'am, and he's still calling me ma'am. So, I probably can't get him to stop doing that. It's kind of embarrassing. Let's start out just a little bit about talking about your life. You know, how it all started. Kind of up to, you know, whatever you want to tell me about. Of course, he says he was born in Tupelo, Mississippi. Lived a very hard life as far as they didn't have a lot of money. They lived in a very, very small house. He actually wants to talk about his brother, Jesse. That was his twin that was born. Now, did he live at all after he was born, or was he stillborn? He's saying he was stillborn. But he says he always knew that Jesse was with him in spirit, that his mama always raised him to believe that. Okay, I see one question coming on. I'd like to know the truth about how he passed on. Okay, we'll definitely get to that. We will get to that for sure. He's saying he was pretty much like any other child. He had a good home. He was raised in church, but they were not financially secure at all. He had to help when he got older. He did odd jobs to help the family as far as being able to feed them and things like that. He helped out at a very, very early age doing that. He went to school just like any other kid. And he says he liked school. He enjoyed learning. But he said he always knew that he was a little bit different from everyone else. He said that they actually moved to Memphis when he was about 11. Still very, very poor. One of the reasons they moved there was for a job opportunity for his father. He was already excited about music. He loved going to church. He loved listening to the gospel music, and he said he loved going to the black churches and listening to that because he felt very comfortable in that situation because he loved to have the movement, and everybody was dancing and clapping and singing along, and he loved that so much. I see another question. Does he continue to sing? Okay, we'll get to that one. He said when he went to high school, he did he did get bullied some just because he was different. He said he loved to comb his hair in a different way than a lot of the kids did. And he kind of lived in his own world. And that he always felt Jesse with him all the time. And Jesse really pushed him to keep going in his music and the singing that he loved so much. He said one of the biggest things that happened to him was his dad had actually got some extra money, and his mama was going to buy him a bicycle to kind of help him get to and from school and to his part-time jobs and things like that. But he didn't want a bicycle. He wanted a guitar. He says, so his mama went downtown at a little like 5 and dime store and bought him a guitar for $12. And he started learning to play. He taught himself how to play. And that just opened his world up even more. He wants to know, how much more do y'all want to know? How much more do y'all want to know? Tell me about, let's see. I know a lot of people know a lot about you because you're so famous in life, and you touch so many people with your singing. When did, of course, we know when you moved to Memphis and when you graduated high school, you had several different jobs. He said, yes, ma'am. My lights just went off again, y'all. There we go. He said he actually drove a delivery truck for a while. And he said what a lot of people didn't know about me, that is, he was training to become a plumber. He was trying to get his apprentice license to become a plumber. But he said none of that made him happy. So is it true that one day you were just walking by the recording studio and you heard music coming from there? Is that how that really happened? He says, yes, ma'am. It happened. He was making a delivery. And it was around towards the back of the building. And he heard music coming from the back of the building. And he stood there and listened for a while. He said it took him a while to get guts and the nerves to actually go inside. But he did, finally. And we all know what happened from there. He's saying that everything started to happen really quick. I see a question that rolled by from someone, if he remembers his encounter with my husband. My husband's little baby. Oh, we'll get to that. We'll see. Thanks for that, though. Thanks for the question. Okay. He said, of course, his big start was when he played the Louisiana Hayride. We all know the story about the Grand Ole Opry. He's laughing when I said that. Of course, he played the Opry one time, and they told him to keep his day job, to keep driving his truck, that he would never make it. And we all know they were very, very wrong on that one. Of course. He says he wants to talk a little bit about his mama. He said his mama was his soulmate, was his best friend, along with Jesse, he said. He said him and his mama always had this special bond. And he loved her more than anything. You certainly can. He wants to know if he can bring his mama with him here tonight. I told him he certainly can. She wants to come, bring her on. Okay, he's very excited. He loves his mama so much, and he's... Oh, we definitely want to welcome her. Welcome. He's got his arm around her. So after we know how famous that you got, and how many records, how many albums you made, how many movies you made, just the extreme success that you had. Is there anything about that you would like to talk about? He said that that he really didn't care about the money that much that he made. He said he did have some problems with how his money was managed. And he didn't really know because he trusted... Are you talking about the Colonel? He is saying that he definitely lost the money. It wasn't done fairly for him. He said, but that's okay, because he had all he needed. He's saying that he actually bought Graceland for his mama. Even though he was going to be living there, the house was for his mama. Okay? And now she's saying that she appreciated the house because it was finer than anything she could have ever imagined living in. But she would have been happier to live in a little bitty house and have Elvis with her, because after he bought Graceland, she said, he was gone an awful lot and wasn't home with her. And that's what she wanted. She wanted him to be with her more. And after the success came, he was gone a lot, and she really did miss him. I want to ask a little bit about your involvement in, or your, I don't know how to put it, your infatuation with, the law enforcement and things like that. That's a good question, Diane. I'll get to that. Yeah. He's saying if he had not become a singer, that he would have loved to have been an FBI agent. He said he loved watching movies about that, and if he hadn't become a singer, he would like to become an FBI agent. Because he said he always had it in his heart to help everybody. Well, we all have heard about how you gave so much to people, more than we probably even know. Donations you made to schools and churches, and just to people on the street that may have needed some help. We all have heard about those stories. Okay, he said we might as well go on and talk about Scylla, and that's Priscilla. Just tell me everything. Just tell me what you want to tell me. He said he did meet her when he was serving in the army. He was in Germany when he met her, and she was about 14 at the time. They met at a party. And it was just really a casual meeting and a casual relationship. They stayed friends. They talked on the phone. They wrote letters. After he was discharged and he moved back to Memphis, he says she did come and visit a couple of times. He said, and then she actually moved in with him when she was a little over 16, and she finished school up in Memphis. And they married soon after her 18th birthday. So let me go to the question that was asked, and I'll ask you, Miss Presley. And she said, please call me Gladys. Gladys, do you wish that Elvis and Priscilla had stayed together? She said she loved Priscilla. She was like a daughter that she never had. And she said, and the Lord knows she loved Lisa. But she wanted her boy happy. And when they divorced, he wasn't happy. So that's why she would have wished they would have stayed together, because Elvis would have been happy. Okay, well, I just want to ask Elvis, if I may, what happened with the marriage? I mean, what happened? He says it was a little bit of a lot of things. The main thing being that he was gone so much. The second thing being that Priscilla always had a little bit of jealousy, and that she always thought he was fooling around on her when he was gone. He said, which is not the truth. He would have never done that to her, he says. And he said the happiest times he had was after Lisa Marie was born, and they could have time together. He said, which just didn't happen very much. He said there was always lots and lots of people in the house. He said, but he just had to be gone too much. So if we can ask, if I can ask, when did you really start with the prescription meds and of all of that? Could you talk a little bit about that? He's saying it happened pretty early in his career. He always had a problem with depression and anxiety. And so the first things he started taking, and he said it was prescribed, was like antidepressant and anti-anxiety meds. He said then as things started going on, he didn't have he didn't sleep a lot, and he was so busy that he had to sleep. So he started then taking sleeping pills at night to help him rest. And then he said as it went on and on and on, he had to take pills to wake him up and get him going during the day. And he said everything he took, he never thought of it being bad because everything he took was prescribed to him by doctors. He said, but he knew that, well, he says he knows now that the doctors would have probably given him anything he wanted because one way or another he would have gotten it anyway. And he said after his mama died, because they were so close, and he's still saying soulmate, his everyday desire for living just kind of went downhill. And he did a lot of things that he had to do just to get through. He's saying that after his mom died, the pills got heavier and heavier. He said he didn't drink as much as people would have liked to think he did. He didn't really enjoy alcohol that much. He would have occasional drinks now and then. But other than that, he didn't really drink a lot of alcohol. Hey, everybody. I'm trying to look at all the questions that are going through. That's a good question. We'll get to that, Diane. I like that. Now then, let's talk about his mama's talking right now. That's why I'm listening. And she's saying the reason she passed so early on was that she missed him so much, and she didn't want to live because he wasn't around her as much, which Elvis says breaks his heart because his mama meant the world to him. Okay, so let's I know we had a question. Let's go on and ask. There's been, all kinds of things said about how you actually died. Tell me what happened, if you want to. And he says he will. Oh, that's a good one. We'll get to that one too, MJ. He's saying, of course, he was still taking all of the pills. He calls them drugs now because he knows that they were, even though they were prescribed to him. He says, let me just tell you about the day and night before I died. He had been in the studio working on a new album and had worked a lot. They were working very hard to get this out. His days and nights, he said, went together. He didn't know which was which. He said he got home that night late. It was about 4:30 in the morning. He took some sleeping pills, some sedatives, so he could go to sleep because he knew he had to be back that night working on the album again. He says he actually got up and had to go to the bathroom. And as he says, and that's the rest of the story. So did you die from pills? Was it an overdose? He said, no, ma'am. He said he knows the pills contributed to it, but he actually had a heart disease, one that actually killed his mom too. He said it was hereditary and it ran in the family. And he said he had not taken very good care of himself physically. And he says his heart just gave out. He said the worst part about it, he said, was knowing that he pretty much did this to his own body. And that's why he died early. He said the worst part was leaving Lisa Marie. But the best part was that he said he was home. He got to see his mama again, and he got to see Jesse. And he said it felt like that he finally found his home. So I had someone ask, this is kind of just an odd question while we're talking about this, if you don't care. Someone wants to know what you think about all these Elvis impersonators. He's kind of laughing, he's kind of chuckling. He said some of them are really, really good. And he said some of them are really, really bad. He said, but it's like the ultimate kind of the ultimate fan, the fandom of it, because they loved him and his music so much that they are doing that to continue it on. Let's see. Let me see what the other question was here. If y'all have questions, come on, bring them on. Gladys, this one's for you. This is interesting because it was actually between Elvis and Michael tonight, and Elvis was chosen. So, how do you feel about? I'm just going to put it to both of you, okay? How do you feel about Lisa Marie when she married Michael Jackson? He kind of drops his head and chuckles a little bit. Gladys says she doesn't understand that at all. That she said she just don't even want to talk about it. But now Elvis is saying that he said it was all a big, it was all a big ploy for both of their careers. He said, but Lisa Marie at the time was trying to really break into the music business, and Michael had always just adored Elvis anyway. And it was almost like, he said Michael felt like that, he said Michael collects so many things that he looked at Lisa Marie as being something else he could collect, something of Elvis's. He said it was just one of those things that should have never happened. And he says he loves Michael. Said he's talked to Michael. He knows Michael. He said it was just one of them things. I've had, I think, a couple people ask, but they want to know, do you continue to sing? He said, of course he does. And he said, this is the best place to do it. He said, because any musician you want to be with and sing with and have jam sessions with, he said, all you have to do is think about it and they'll be here. He said, so it's always a big jam session. If you had to pick one favorite song, could you do that? He said there'd be no way he could pick one favorite song. He said, however, he always loved to sing Amazing Grace because that was his mama's favorite song. And he said all of his gospel albums that he did were some of his favorites because that took him back to his roots. He said he could sit for hours and hours and hours at the piano just singing gospel songs. He loved them. So the answer is yes. He still continues to sing. Any more questions? Keep rolling them by. And while we still got him here, we'll ask some questions if you all have any. Before I actually started this, I had, excuse me, tons and tons of things I'd like to ask, and now I've kind of gone blank. So you said, of course, you met your mom and Jesse as soon as you passed. Tell me a little bit about seeing Jesse. He said, of course, he and Jesse were identical twins. And he said it was like looking at his little self again. So when you say little self, did he What did he look like when you saw him? Was he just, I mean, like you? Or he said he was younger. He said he looked probably about 12. And he said the reason that Jesse did that is because Elvis always called him his little brother. Even though they were the same age, he always called him his little brother. So let me ask this. If you could come back and do one thing totally different, what would it be? And he says that everybody has a life to live while we're here. And we all have a purpose to fulfill while we're here. And he said he doesn't know if he would change anything or not. Because what happened to him and the way he lived was the way it was supposed to happen. That makes a lot. He says that it's not like your destiny. It's not like predestiny. It's not like that we all have our free will. But inside everybody is a purpose to fulfill. Whether it's a good or bad, or maybe you wished you hadn't have done it. It was still something that needed to be done. So one of our listeners here says that she's sure that you go visit Lisa Marie a lot. And he says, yes, ma'am, he does. And he sees his grandchildren. He says, but the place he'd rather be is where he's at right now, and that's in heaven, as he calls it. Because it's just like going home. So, what do you think about all the money that's still coming in from your career? All the records that are still being sold, or I'm going to say downloaded now, because that's pretty much how we get music now, is downloaded. And like all the money from all the people that visit Graceland, and all the merchandise that's sold. And what do you think about all that? He says he always made his most money on merchandising anyway. Believe it or not. He said even over top of record sales, he made a lot of money from the merchandise. We have somebody ask if you visit Scylla, and do you go back to Graceland and see everything they're doing there? He says he does visit Priscilla. He says not a lot. And he says he of course goes back to Graceland. He says he particularly likes a new exhibit that they have now of Lisa Marie's. That has like things of hers from her childhood and things that she did with him when she was a little child. He said, like toys and stuff. There's toys in that display. And he says he's happy that Graceland makes so many people happy. He says, of course, with him being buried there, and they brought, after he passed away, he said that they brought Gladys and Jesse, moved their graves to where he is, so they would all be together, because they were originally buried in Tupelo. He said, so they're all together, all three graves. And he says he likes that because he wants people to not only see his, but to see his mama's and Jesse's, because without the two of them, he would have never been what he was. Any more questions? Anybody wants to roll any by? I guess we've all, depending on our age, have seen a lot of your movies. And you were always portrayed as a lover of women. I mean, you had women swooning all over you all the time. Talk a little bit about, if you will, all the women in your life, or all the... He laughs and said, yes, he is a lover of women. He appreciates all of the women. He loves all women. He says shape, size, color. He said women are the most important thing that God ever created. And he says, unlike the way he was portrayed, he was not always with a different woman every night. He did not do that because he respected women too much. And he said there were some special women, but none of them quite took Priscilla's place. And he did not have a different woman, he said, in his bed every night. As much as they like to portray him as that way, as a sex symbol, he said he did not feel that way at all about himself. And he's saying, surprisingly enough, he said, most of the time when there was a woman in his bed, he said he was a big lover of just closeness and cuddling and kissing. He said he actually never really had much desire for the actual love-making part. That he would have just, he liked laying together and just being close. That's interesting. I never expected to be talking about this with you. He's laughing. I feel like I'm getting a little blushed. So, your movies, who was, of all the women you worked with in your movies, did you have a favorite one? Favorite co-star in any of your movies? Did you ever have a favorite one? He said they were all special. He loved working with Mary Ann Mobley. I didn't know that. He said he did one movie with Mary Tyler Moore that he loved. He loved working with her. Hmm. Okay, there's another question. How close were you with Anne Margaret? He said they were definite friends. They were linked together to be together a lot, but they really weren't. He said she always made him look better in the movies because she was such a good actress. And he said, and she also was a very good singer. He said there was always plenty of pretty women to be around. Yeah, there were lots of rumors about you and Anne Margaret. Yeah, he said yes. But he said they weren't true. He said they were very close. They were good friends. He said she visited Graceland quite often. But so did a lot of people, he said. So I've always loved the name of the Memphis Mafia that is always called of your friends that were always with you all the time. They call them Memphis Mafia. He said that's what he named them, the Memphis Mafia. He said they were all just good friends, good buddies to hang out, that they watched after him, they protected him. He said there was a lot of rumors that the name was true, that they were like mafia people, but they weren't. He said, yes, there was a lot of weapons at Graceland, and when they would go places for his protection. He says that it wasn't ever really in the news a lot, but he did have quite a few death threats, and especially Priscilla and Lisa Marie had a lot of threats against them. He said, but they were just all good. He said they were all his good buddies, and they would have done anything for each other. I was going to say, if you could tell me anything that we didn't know, and I think you already said that with the sex comment. I don't think any of us would have ever thought that. He said he will tell something else. He said that he was always lonely, no matter who he was with. He said there could have been a full house and he was still lonely. He said especially after his mama died. Oh, that's a good question. The question was, how were you feeling in your last concert? They think it was in Honolulu. How were you feeling at that concert? And how the fans were so overjoyed to see you. He said that he always loved Hawaii. He made a lot of movies in Hawaii. He actually had a home in Hawaii. He said the people were just very nice to him. He said physically he wasn't feeling very well at all. And at one point they thought they weren't even going to be able to do the concert. He says his voice always stayed good, that he never had a problem having his voice, but just his physical self. He said he had no energy to really do a show like he should have done. He said, and everybody expected that from him. He said that he actually had another tour that was going to be coming up just within months when he passed away, that he was going back out to perform some more. But he said, of course, that didn't happen. Said it took you years to come back because of your weight. And he said yes, that he did not take care of himself at all. That food became a substitute for him from a lot of things that he lacked in his life. He says the loneliness was the number one reason. And he said the number two reason was he just loved to eat. But with the heart condition that he knew he had, he should have taken better care of himself, and he didn't do it. So, did you really eat the fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches? He said, I ate more than one of them, he says. He said that he had a housekeeper, and she also cooked for him, that actually came up with that for him, and he absolutely fell in love with the sandwich. But he says he really loved it when she put bacon on it too. So fried peanut butter, banana, and bacon sandwich. Wow. I like peanut butter banana. I've never thought of bacon on it. He said he loved bacon. Bacon was his favorite meat, almost. He said he could eat all kinds of bacon. So if you could tell us something that you have learned since being over on the other side? Something that could benefit our listeners. What would it be? He's saying the biggest thing is to realize that you need to live your life right now, in the now, not to think about what happened yesterday or what's going to happen tomorrow. And he says we all need to learn how to forgive ourselves and not carry so much baggage with us. He says because of all that baggage that we have and we can't forgive ourselves, we can't give the love to others that we need to give. And he said the biggest thing that we need to learn is how to love others. And learn how to give to others. And he says not just money and things like that, to just give of ourselves to others. To be friendly, to be kind. He said to stop judging and to love everybody. I think that's wonderful advice. Another question that rolled through is, do you want to talk anything about your dad? He said he loves his dad, although he and his dad were never as close as him and his mama. He said his dad was the disciplinarian in the house, and he was very strict and very stern. And he didn't have that. Closeness that he said his dad had a lot of trouble with showing love and things like that. So he was never as close to his daddy as he was his mama. And he said after his mama passed, of course his dad married again, and they moved into Graceland along with her children. The lady he remarried had children too. And he accepted them with open arms, he said. And he says he loves his daddy, and he just didn't have the bond that him and his mama did, or still does. And now Gladys is speaking up, saying that she's glad that he remarried and he found someone. He was, she said he was always a little like Elvis as far as not liking to be alone. That he didn't want to be alone. He wanted people with him, someone with him all the time. That's good. He said, Elvis is saying that you've got to learn to love yourself or you're always going to be lonely. He says that you should love yourself first. And after you love yourself first, then you can love others. He said it's all about it's all about the love that you put out. And he says that all comes back to you. That's good. Anything else? Anybody have any questions you want to ask? If not, I think we're going to be finishing it up. And I want to thank my spirit guide, Joel, for allowing me to do this. And I want to thank Elvis and his mama, Gladys, for coming and being with us tonight. Like I said, I never dreamed I would be talking to Elvis, but I want to thank you so much for doing that, because it means a lot to people when you can give some insight on how things are and how things will be over on the other side. It means a lot. So I want to thank you both for being here, and I want to thank everybody here watching. I will be posting this onto the YouTube channel. One more quick question. What does him and his mom do together in heaven? He says all we need to do is be together. And he said that's what we are. We're together. So I'll be posting this onto the YouTube channel. You can search YouTube and find it under Chatting with Joel and Guests. Please go by YouTube, like the video, and also subscribe to the page, because that way you'll never miss an episode. And every Wednesday night we'll be doing this. And as soon as I hear who we'll be speaking with next week, I'll post it. So if you all want to go and under the comments, post questions, when I let you know who it's going to be next week, go ahead and post your questions there. That way we can already have them out and lined up and ready to ask, and we can kind of do it in order, so we don't jump back and forth a lot to parts of their life to parts of their death. We can kind of keep it in order and go a little bit better and quicker. So please go by YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and share it to people who may be interested in hearing what Elvis had to say tonight, or what he had to give, the advice he had to give us tonight. So please share it. I'd like to see a lot of people watching these videos, or watching even the YouTube replay of the videos, because I think it, not only is it fun to speak to these people, but they've got a lot of insight that they can share, and we can learn a lot from how they live their life and how they're living their afterlife. So I want to thank everybody again for being here with us, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.